as fares are waived for the libreng sakay of the Metro Rail Transit. For passengers, a month-long, all-day free ride is a very welcome development amid the skyrocketing cost of fuel and necessities.
Papunta pa uwi ng Kamuning libre, so mga 50 pesos a day to 50 a week. So 1,000 a month yung matitipid ko.
Masaya. Kasi libre.
The free ride comes as the MRT completed the rehabilitation of its train lines. From 12 to 15 trains running per day, there are now 21 operational trains. MRT3 management says they are prepared for the expected influx of passengers this month.
We're deploying yung 4-car train set natin. We can accommodate 1,576 in one sitting, no? And at the same time, we're deploying more. Ngayon, 21 trains tayo. So mabilis. Ang headway natin, 4 minutes.
Commuters are entitled to free rides from any MRT3 station any time of the day from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. Passengers who want to avail of the libreng sakay just have to tap their valid beep cards at the gate, while those who do not have the card may get their single journey ticket from the counter free of charge. Aside from MRT3, the EDSA bus carousel also implemented its free ride program on Monday.
Mas malaking tulong po sa atin lahat. Siyempre po, nakakabawas po sa gastusin.
The government has allotted 7 billion pesos for the service contracting program of the bus carousel. The MRT is set to lose revenues this month, but its officials say they would rather focus on helping passengers amid the transportation woes and soaring costs. Chrissy De Matulak, CNN Philippines.
More people are out and about now that COVID-19 restrictions have eased. This has resulted in heavy traffic not only during rush hour. Does this mean the economy is doing well now? How should the government solve the traffic problem? Commuters and economists weigh in this report from Stanley Gahete.
Motorists and commuters experience traffic congestion on major highways at almost any time of the day.
Mas marami na kasi lumalabas ngayon, dumadami yung mga utility sasakyan, mga pampubliko tsaka private. Napakarami na.
Noon din sa pandemic, hindi rin kaano kasi wala naman pasahero. Wala nga traffic, wala naman tao. Ngayon, matao, napaka-traffic naman.
Even though the volume of vehicles passing through major highways is increasing, the MMDA will not expand the implementation of the number coding scheme. The agency says the schedule of scheme, which is from 5 to 8 p.m., is still enough. It also says the traffic situation now is still not the same during the pre-pandemic time because many employees are still working from home. Commuters and motorists are divided on the full implementation of the number coding scheme.
Kapag wala tayong yung numbers coding, may iwasan natin yung yung siksikan sa mga public transportation.
Balik na, pwede na rin. Mas maigi. At least, medyo siguro mababawasan yung traffic.
Experts believe that the traffic congestion is not directly related to economic development, considering that the country has just started recovering from the impacts of the pandemic.
Traffic, as studies have shown, would actually imply costs on your economy, opportunity costs amounting to millions, even billions of opportunity losses, because yun nga, there are delays in the movement of goods, services.
The economist says it is more important to expand business activities outside Metro Manila and to provide efficient public transport.
In so doing, we also become more environmentally friendly, sustainable. Kasi yun din, another cost that traffic brings, okay, and people quickly would equate it to higher economic activity, higher GDP. It goes together with more efficient public transport systems, more flexible work arrangements, that ultimately redound to higher productivity.
Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
Hundreds of residents in Batangas were forced to leave their homes again as Taal volcano showed signs of unrest for the third time in 2 years. No escalation of alert level yet, but authorities are keeping watch. Tristan Odalo reports evacuees hope to go back home soon.
PHIVOC says that it may take 2 weeks before they can decide on whether or not to downgrade or raise the alert level over Taal volcano. The agency adds that the possibility of raising it to alert level 4 is low for now, but local officials say that it's still too risky for evacuees to go home. Over 100 families are currently staying in Agoncillo Central School, one of the main evacuation sites in the town of Agoncillo, Batangas. Residents from Barangay Banyaga and Bilibinwang evacuated there because their houses are inside Taal Volcano's 7-kilometer danger zone. It's the third time since 2020 that residents moved to temporary shelters due to Taal's volcanic unrest. Evacuees are hoping this will not be their new normal.
Natataranta po ulit, parang yung nauna, tapos impake po ng damit, tapos ayun, likas na. Mahirap po, lalo na sa mga bata, tapos yung higaan po ay yung banig lang, tapos sa semento nga po, ganun. Tulad po sa akin, ako may asthma. Sana makauwi na ulit lahat, balik na lang sa normal at hindi na po maulit, kasi mahirap po talaga.
Women and children are the ones occupying the classrooms in Agoncillo Central, while the men are staying in their houses to secure their properties and livelihoods. The local government is also implementing window hours from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. so that residents can check their belongings. Food is being provided for the evacuees by the local government. Charging and Wi-Fi stations have been put up as well. In Laurel Town, residents from 3 high-risk barangays have also been evacuated.
Dinala po lahat po dito yung mga sasakyan. Tsaka po yung po mga contact po ng Laurel po na kunyari po mga jeep, truck, nagtulong-tulong naman po sila. Tsaka po yung barangay po ng Buso-Buso, Gulod, tsaka Bugaan is alam na po nila kung saan po sila pupuntang evacuation center po.
Local officials say that campaigning is prohibited inside evacuation centers and that those who are willing to give assistance or donations can course it through the Philippine Red Cross. In Laurel, Batangas, Tristan Nodalo, CNN Philippines.
In a Senate hearing this morning, Agriculture Assistant Secretary Federico Lasiste admitted he received phone calls from what he says were big names trying to influence anti-smuggling operations.
Meron po kasi nung mga hinuhuli ko sir, yung mga cases natin na nakaraan noong 2021, may mga tumatawag po kasi sa akin noon, mga matataas na tao. And, pero ang ginawa ko po doon, hindi ko na po inaksyonan. Instead, tinuloy pa rin namin yung paghuli at pagkaso.
Senate President Tito Soto has asked for the names of those involved. Meantime, carrot farmers in Benguet say they're losing 2.5 million pesos every day because of smuggling. They say most buyers prefer carrots from China because these can be stored for up to 2 months, while local produce only lasts for 2 to 3 days. Soto says authorities should look into what chemicals are used on the carrots from China to extend their shelf life. Straight ahead on Newsnight, Senator Manny Pacquiao says he does not rule out withdrawing from the presidential race 5 weeks before the Filipino votes. And in a shocking moment in Oscars history, actor Will Smith hits comedian Chris Rock after taking offense at a joke about his wife. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Mas pinalawak, mas pinalakas, RPN sa iba't ibang mga lalawigan. DZRL Batangas, DZTG Tuguegarao, DZBS Baguio, DZKI Iriga, DYKB Bacolod, DYKC Cebu, DXKS Surigao, DXKD Dipolo, DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXKT Davao, DXKP Pagadian, DXXX Zamboanga, DXDX General Santos, DWIZ 882 Manila at RPN Provincial Stations.
Kini ang RPN Radio Philippines Network, Istasyon DXKP 1377 kHz sa dial sa inyong mga radyo. Nagsibya gikan sa dakbayan sa Pagadian, DXKP AM. Your talk station. Kini Pagadian.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Yet another close encounter with a Chinese Coast Guard vessel in Philippine waters. The Philippine Coast Guard reports the incident happened in Bajo de Masinloc on March 2nd. A Chinese vessel with bow number 3305 conducted a close-distance maneuvering of about 21 yards towards BRP Malabrigo. PCG condemned China's violation of the regulations for preventing collisions at sea. In my interview on CNN Philippines special presentation, the Generals 2.0 late last year, then Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Leopoldo Laroya told us the Chinese Coast Guard ships are actually, or appear to be, Navy vessels.
They are really Chinese Coast Guard vessels. They're painted white with the stripes on it, no? But you know, they're very big vessels, and they were former Navy vessels painted white. So the diplomacy here is that we use white vessels against white vessels, because instead of invoking any aggression, it's more on maritime safety, law enforcement, and environmental protection.
The latest incident marks the fourth time Philippine vessels had a close encounter with Chinese ships in disputed waters. The Japanese embassy reiterates its position against China, saying actions done by force or coercion are, quote, utterly unacceptable, unquote. After 5 years of scaled-down exercises largely attributed to President Duterte's policy and over 2 years of the global health crisis, the annual Balikatan War Games are back. David Santos tells us about the biggest joint U.S. and Philippine military drills in recent history.
For days now, U.S. Air Force and Marine Corps aircraft flying in and out of Subic in Zambales. Out at sea, USS Miguel Keith moving logistics to shore for military operations. All these part of Balikatan 2022, said to be the biggest in recent years.
This combined joint exercise is an opportunity for the United States and the Philippines to reaffirm our commitment to even more robust ties.
Thus, sending a message to the world that the alliance between our countries is stronger than ever.
The revitalized Balikatan is being held amid a backdrop of China's continuing aggression in the West Philippine Sea, as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The annual war games forced to scale down since 2017 after an infuriated President Duterte threatened to cut defense relations with the U.S. as he pivoted to China and Russia. With the president soon out of Malacanang and a new administration sets in, the two allied forces now making up for missed opportunities.
We are committed in our obligations in our mutual defense treaty.
As military professionals, we're charged with being ready when our nations need us most.
Close to 9,000 U.S. and Filipino troops will take part in this year's Balikatan that will include live fire exercises and maritime security and urban warfare operations, constantly enhancing joint defense in response to an ever-evolving security landscape. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Senator Manny Pacquiao had vowed to fight through the end of his biggest battle so far, running for the presidency. But amid a low survey ranking, lack of political endorsements, and shakeups in the campaigns of his rivals, he's now saying only God can make him back out. He's now saying only God can make him back out. Sian Arcangel joins us live from Manila, where Pacquiao made that statement. Sian?
Senator Manny Pacquiao says he's willing to shelve his candidacy if he gets a clear sign from God to back out. A devout born-again Christian, Pacquiao says he will not dispute any divine instruction that he might get from God about his presidential bid. There have been persistent reports that Pacquiao will back out due to his low rating in pre-election surveys. Only a few politicians have also endorsed Pacquiao's presidential bid, unlike some of his rivals for the presidency. Pacquiao has repeatedly said that he's not running for president for personal glory, but to help the poor and fight corruption.
The only thing na pwede ako mag-decide na hindi ako tumuloy pag may conviction ng Panginoon sa akin na huwag ka nang tumuloy. Sino ba naman ako? para kontrahin ang Panginoon. Pag may conviction, may pinakita sa akin ng Panginoon, ayaw kong mag-withdraw ako kahit na 2 days before election or 1 day before election. Pag may instruction ng Panginoon sa akin, susundin ko.
As to what sign Pacquiao will be looking from God, the retired 8th Division boxing champion shares that he dreamed about his defeat in a number of boxing fights even before he stepped into the ring. Pacquiao believes he will get a clear instruction from God through prayer on whether or not he should back out from the presidential race.
Many times nangyari sa buhay ko, yung mga talo ko, halos kalamihan sa talo ko sa boxing, 1 week before napanaginipan ko yan. Nananaginip ako ng resulta. Yung sinabi ko na panaginip ko, yun ang exactly nangyari sa fight.
Pacquiao campaigned today in Manila, the bailiwick of another presidential candidate, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno. Pacquiao met with mayoralty candidate and former Manila Congressman Amado Bagaching before holding a dialogue with his supporters in San Andres Bukid. He is now in Baseco, Manila, where he is speaking to residents here. Pia?
Sian, Senator Pacquiao talked about his wish to help residents affected by Taal volcano's unrest. What kind of assistance was he referring to?
Senator Manny Pacquiao wants to send food and drinking water to the residents affected by Taal volcano's unrest as soon as possible. But he says he will seek the COMELEC's permission first about whether this is allowed because he doesn't want to be sued for any election-related offense. Pacquiao says that he has been helping a lot of people whenever calamity strikes, so he hopes to get the COMELEC's permission to help residents affected by Taal volcano's unrest. Pia?
CNR Kanghel there reporting live from Manila. On to other presidential candidates. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's political party, Acción Democrático, asks the Supreme Court for a certificate of finality on the Marcos family's unsettled estate taxes worth 203 billion pesos. Acción Democrático Chairman Ernesto Ramel Jr. says the party asked for the document to disprove the claims of Bongbong Marcos's campaign that the family's estate tax liability is pending in court. Marcos's spokesperson accused rivals of using the issue for their political gain. Leni Robredo in the province of Samar, where she vowed to make electricity cheaper in the area. She's looking to use renewable energy and to tap geothermal and hydro resources in Samar. Bongbong Marcos takes on Mindanao as more local officials there expressed support for Robredo. He held campaign rallies in Carmen Town in Cotabato, Buluan Town in Maguindanao, and Isulan Town in Sultan Kudarat today. Senator Ping Lacson says he's not feeling a drop in support from Mindanao, which is known as a bailiwick of his former party mate at Partido Reforma, Representative Pantaleon Bebot Alvarez. Alvarez shifted his support from Lacson to Robredo. Lacson is now thinking of changing his campaign tagline, which he says was Alvarez's idea.
Now, kung hindi na para sa akin yon, since siya naman yung unang nag-concoct nung phrase na we need a leader, then probably I might reconsider changing or tweaking it. We're going to adopt probably something like we have a leader. Mas maganda, di ba?
COMELEC gearing up for its second debate for presidential candidates. 9 of 10 bets, minus former Senator Bongbong Marcos, will again face off on Sunday, April 3rd, just 2 weeks after the PO body's first series of debates. The upcoming event will focus on government accountability, foreign relations, safety, and security. COMELEC's Law Department says it is studying if it can impose heftier sanctions on debate skippers on top of a ban from using the free e-rally Facebook channel.
Wala po tayong umiirang na batas na sinasabing, oy, lahat ng kandidato dapat haharap kayo sa presidential debate. Pag hindi kayo humarap, disqualified o kaya kulong na 1 hanggang 6 na taon. Wala po kasing ganun eh. Kung sa inyong palagay ay komportable kayo sa isang kandidato nyo na hindi humaharap sa debate, nasa inyo po ang desisyon. Kung sa inyong palagay naman, gusto nyo nakikita nakikipagbanggaan talaga ng talino at kagalingan ng inyong mga kandidato, abangan nyo po yung presidential debate. Madami tayong matututunan.
Marcos did not attend COMELEC's first presidential debate. His running mate, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, was also absent from the vice presidential debate without providing a reason, while Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza skipped the event as he's recovering from knee surgery. Coming up here on Newsnight, actor Will Smith apologizes to the Academy during his acceptance speech after an incident that shocked Hollywood. And King James marks another milestone in the NBA. Details next here on CNN Philippines.
Mas pinalawak, mas pinalakas, RPN sa iba't ibang mga lalawigan. DZRL Bataan, DZTG Tuguegarao, DZBS Baguio, DZKI Iriga, DYKB Bacolod, DYKC Cebu, DXKS Surigao, DXKD Dipolo, DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXKT Davao, DXKP Pagadian, DXXX Zamboanga, DXDX General Santos, DWIZ 882 Manila at RPN Provincial Stations.
Kini ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, istasyon DXKP, 1377 kHz sa dial sa inyong mga radyo. Nagsibya gikan sa dakbayan sa Pagadian, DXKP AM. Kini Pagadian.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines in sports. Yet another milestone for King James, with the Lakers forward now second on the NBA's all-time field goals made list upon his 13th field goal in the game against the New Orleans Pelicans. LeBron James passed Karl Malone's record. The star player now has 13,530 FGs to his name. Field goals refer to shots that are not free throws. But it wasn't all wins for LeBron today, with the Lakers suffering their second straight loss. Back here at home, one of the stars of a hit K-drama Reply 1988 posted photographs of himself here in the Philippines. Lee Dong-wi, who played Ryu Dong-ryong on the show, captured some images in Rockwell, Makati, with the caption "Love" plus the Philippine flag emoji. Fans speculate the actor was in the country to film the Disney Plus drama Casino. And Hollywood updates now. It would have been yet another uneventful Oscars with the winners in the Best Picture, Actress, Actor, and Director, as the big news for the day had Will Smith not hit Oscars host, comedian Chris Rock. Let's watch this.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
ウィル・スミスにやられました。
Wow, dude. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
G.I. Jane のジョークだったんで。
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television.
Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. Denzel said to me a few minutes ago, he said, at your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes for you. I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees. Thank you. Hope the Academy invites me back. Thank you.
The Academy has spoken out about the incident, saying it does not condone violence. No news yet on whether or not the actor will be made to return his Oscar. Now on to other Academy Award recipients. Among big winners was Skoda, which took 3 prizes, including Best Picture and Adapted Screenplay. Disney's Encanto nabbed Animated Feature Film. Both Will Smith and Jessica Chastain earned their first Oscar this year for actor and actress in a leading role. A wonderful highlight, though, Lady Gaga with wheelchair-bound Liza Minnelli presenting the Oscar for Best Picture. The pop star said she was honored to do this with a, quote, true show business legend, and continued for Liza when she began to fumble with her words. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
What is more familiar than that morning cup of coffee? For many of us, it's hard to imagine a day without it. But the health effects have been controversial. There are a number of benefits to it. Coffee is high in antioxidants, has essential nutrients, and protects against some diseases. But it also contains caffeine, which can cause anxiety and can even disrupt your sleep. So, should you be reaching for that 5th or even 6th cup of joe? On the program today, we'll talk more about the good and the bad of coffee. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. For many Filipinos, we drink coffee almost every day. But our love for it has translated to an increase in our caffeine intake. Our guests are here today to tell us what this means for our health. Joining us on the program today is Dr. Raul Lapitan. He's a cardiologist from the Makati Medical Center and the past governor of the American College of Cardiology Philippine Chapter. Also with us is Dr. Jan Di Pasupil, who's a lifestyle medicine specialist from the Medical City and the Vice President of the Philippine Digital Medicine Society. There has been a lot of discussion about the health benefits of coffee. Some recent studies have actually shown that it's more healthful than harmful. But the key here is drinking it in moderation. I'll start the conversation with Dr. Jan. Dr. Jan, what is considered the right amount of coffee?
The caffeine should not be more than 400 milligrams per day. So that's about 1 cup of or 250 ml of brewed coffee containing 95 milligrams of caffeine. So that's about a maximum of 4.5 cup of coffee per day. And the legal dose, or the something that would be very serious of caffeine is 10 grams. And if you're going to take a look at or choose other drinks, the decaf would be 2 to 5 milligrams. The instant coffee of 63 milligrams. The frap drink that some millennials will be ordering would be 65 milligrams. The espresso, the cappuccino, about 75 milligrams. The iced coffee of 120 milligrams. And for some people who really need some boost of energy, the cold brew is 155 milligrams.
In order to get the good benefits of coffee, dapat ba this should be taken as it is? Black coffee, kumbaga, no other sugars, no milks. What do you think, Dr. Jan?
You could add some creamer, you could add some natural sugars. Well, you still have that caffeine, but there would be a little bit confounding factors. Like if you add some sweetener, it could have like an effect in your sugar. So the insulin would be stimulated, causing some sugar crash. Or if there would be a creamer, you put a lot of milk that contains tryptophan, so it would cause somehow sleepiness. So the goal is to have like a moderate dose of 30 to 300 milligrams of your caffeine for you to have this boost of energy.
Overall, moderate consumption of coffee can be incorporated in a healthy diet. And that's where we want to go now, yung mga health benefits ito. Dr. Lapitan, let's talk about some of the healthy benefits of coffee.
To start with, coffee contains caffeine, as been described earlier, and it is actually a central nervous system stimulant that we all know that its ability to fight fatigue and thus increase energy level. Now, there are some research rather shows that drinking coffee may have health benefit, particularly in the heart. No? In fact, one review found out that drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee per day was tied to about 15% reduction in the risk of heart disease. Another review of 21 studies, actually a meta-analysis, that showed that drinking 3 to 4 cups of coffee daily was associated with 21% lower risk of stroke. And what's more to that, another study is that more than 21,000 people are found to have an increased coffee intake as associated with significant decrease of heart failure. Keep in mind that caffeine could always affect your blood pressure levels. People with unmanaged blood pressure may need to limit or keep their level to the moderate. Some research suggests that consuming coffee regularly could be associated with a decreased risk of developing type 2 diabetes over a long period of time. And in fact, a meta-analysis, 30 studies found that each cup of coffee people consume per day was linked to 6% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Paano naman, Doc, meron ng problema doon sa heart nila? Is it still possible for diagnosed heart patients, to still enjoy moderate amounts of caffeine?
Yes, because I still believe anything that is too much is bad for the health. People who have already a pre-existing heart disease, does it mean they're not allowed to drink coffee in a moderate amount? No, they can. Okay? Because the principle behind that is that they found out that the coffee actually somehow can reduce the calcium deposits in the coronaries. So assuming if they have a pre-existing heart disease, that can even prevent worsening as long as they take the right amount of coffee.
Speaking still in the line of the health benefits of coffee and caffeine in general, there are many side effects to drinking too much caffeine. We'll talk about what happens when you have too much on it later on the show. But now I'd like to ask Dr. Jan, is one of the benefits that a lot of people drink their coffee is to suppress their appetite. Is this something that should be seen as a benefit of caffeine?
Well, caffeine could actually stimulate the nervous system, and it also has a good effect in our metabolism. So for the nervous system, it would be increasing the blood levels of the hormone epinephrine, and the epinephrine would help us in having this drive, boost of energy. On the other hand, it would have direct signals to the fat cells to break it down for it to be used as energy. Another effect of caffeine in for the metabolism, it could directly increase our metabolism, or what we call the resting metabolic rate. This is based on studies about 3 to 11%. So you have that kind of energy, you have that drive to burn more of the fat. And let's say you are going to drink coffee before you eat, before your breakfast. There's this kind of appetite suppressant. So you won't be feeling that you're going to eat a lot. So it would have an effect in sticking, let's say, for intermittent fasting, or let's say for this particular kind of low-calorie diet, or what kind of diet that you have tried, and eventually helping you in losing weight.
Now, some studies show that coffee drinkers have a lower risk of developing diseases like heart disease as well as diabetes. But caffeine can be addicting, and drinking too much of it is not without its side effects. More on this when we return. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. Contrary to popular belief, coffee can be good for us. Just the right amount can support our brain health, boost our metabolism, and even reduce the risk of diabetes and heart disease. But people can become dependent on caffeine, and this can be dangerous for their health as well. Let's go through some of the side effects of too much caffeine. How does this manifest sa katawan ng tao?
Too much of coffee can lead to, of course, we call it toxicity, which includes abdominal pain from hyperacidity, increased or fast heart rate, or worst case, arrhythmia. And it may further compromise the heart circulation. It may also induce anxiety or nervousness if you're taking too much of this. And I guess you mentioned this, sleep disruption, palpitation as a result of arrhythmia, and of course, restlessness. All of this also can lead to insomnia. Though caffeine's ability to help people to stay awake is one of its prized qualities, too much of caffeine can make it difficult for someone to get enough restorative sleep. Gastrointestinal tract is not actually exempted from this side effect because this coffee sometimes has a laxative effect due to release of gastrin, a hormone that stomach produces that speeds up the activity of the colon. It also increases the bowel movement or increases the peristalsis.
The usual side effects of too much caffeine is jitterness, anxiety, and even panic attacks can happen. And if you're overstimulated at night, as mentioned, it can even cause insomnia. Now, I'd like to talk about that. Dr. Jan, tell us more about this because a lot of people like to have that cup of coffee after their dinner. So how does this contribute to their insomnia? Is this something bad? Is this something that they should avoid?
First, the effects of caffeine may last up to 4 to 6 hours upon consumption. So if they're taking coffee, let's say 8 p.m., they may not be able to sleep at their preferred bedtime. The effects of caffeine intake like 0, 3, or 6 hours before your bedtime, and found that even caffeine that are consumed 6 hours before bed could reduce the sleep time by 1 hour. So caffeine notably reduces our slow wave sleep, which is the stage of deep and restful sleep that leaves you refreshed and alert in the morning. So the tip is to cut the caffeinated drinks 4 to 6 hours before bedtime. But few people that drank, let's say, just 1 cup of coffee in the morning can make them jittery or won't make them sleep at night. And that's called the caffeine sensitivity. So the tip there is to reduce or eliminate the coffee.
Effects of coffee be seen in people who are dependent. Mataas na yung tolerance nila for coffee. They need more coffee just to get that desired effect. Is it possible for the people to determine, can they feel that they are already dependent on coffee?
You see, the tolerance regarding the caffeine typically vary from person to person. It's relatively depending on the threshold of certain individual. Caffeine tolerance occurs when the stimulatory effects of caffeine decrease over time due to regular consumption. And basically, this can be explained by the caffeine effect on the system wherein it predispose or rather induce adenosine receptors, the increase in adenosine receptors. So that makes one person, say after consuming 2 cups of coffee at night, then later on, weeks later, they found out they need more cups of coffee to stay awake, especially if they study. No? And that's what we call caffeine tolerance, or intolerance for that matter.
Dr. Jan, is it possible for a coffee drinker who is already dependent on caffeine, is it possible for them to not feel the good effects of coffee, what they want to feel from coffee, but rather it just goes directly to the bad side effects?
They could be hitting already the tolerance, and that could be they wanted to get to drink more of the coffee. They may want to look for other ways to feel there's this boost of energy, alertness, and so that would be somehow dangerous if they have developed that, and we don't want that to lead to a lethal dose of that 10 grams or that feeling of the jitteriness and the palpitation. What I usually give or advise patients is to avoid the palpitations and the feeling that you wanted to do everything in the same time. That feels like that is too high of your coffee or your caffeinated caffeine level.
If you've developed a dependence on your daily dose, many coffee lovers will tell you that it's not that easy to not take a coffee break. Caffeine withdrawals can resemble coming off addictive drugs. Dr. Jan, what are some telltale signs of caffeine withdrawal?
Caffeine withdrawal occurs when someone has been consuming regular coffee and they suddenly stop. So the most common sign of withdrawal would be headache, because caffeine consumption causes the blood vessels to narrow. So that reduce the intake allows the blood vessels to just open up and increases the blood flow to the brain. So this sudden change in the blood flow can cause the painful withdrawal headaches that could vary in length and severity. The other signs or symptoms of this caffeine withdrawal could be fatigue, anxiety. For this fatigue, the caffeine helps in increasing the alertness, but if you have removed it, this would be having the adenosine to have a function. This neurotransmitter can make you feel drowsy. Okay, it would have poor concentration. There's kind of feeling of depressed mood, and other symptoms would be low energy, irritability, and even some tremors that could range from 2 to 9 days. So these symptoms usually begin like 12 to 24 hours. That last consumption that peak in 1 to 2 days.
So, what are the tried and tested ways to taper your caffeine intake? We'll talk about taking a coffee detox when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. If you find yourself consuming more than 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day, it might be time to taper down your caffeine intake. Very high dosages can interfere with your day-to-day living and even cause serious health issues later on. But caffeine withdrawal is a real thing. Dr. Lapitan, tell us what are some of the safe and effective ways in lowering coffee intake?
Then you cut back gradually, say you reduce the size and the number of orders or number of cups, for instance. If there is a way for you to shift to a decaf, go ahead and proceed with decaf. Shorten your brew time or go herbal, meaning from coffee you can try, say, tea, although tea also has a caffeine but much less compared with your coffee. Never forget to check the label or the bottle of your coffee. And of course, the last thing is to drink more water than coffee. Consuming, say, 2 liters a day would really make a lot of difference.
Now, most of us are accustomed to starting our day with a morning cup of coffee. But, Dr. Jan, what are some alternatives to trying to find that stimulant to pick us up every morning? That's what we're trying to substitute here.
Well, there are non-caffeinated drinks that you could choose. You could try some roasted soybean, like the soy coffee. It can somehow give you a little bit of taste of that coffee, rice coffee, the mushroom coffee, or if you want to shift from coffee to tea, they call it the tisane. So this is a term for tea that doesn't come from tea leaves. So examples would be chamomile, that would be good for sleeping initiation, turmeric, lemongrass, rose, hibiscus, the lavender, the fruit, teas, apples, and so on.
Now, Dr. Jan, how about when it comes to decaf coffee? Earlier you mentioned how even decaf coffee has a small amount of caffeine. What if the person really just likes the taste of coffee but doesn't want the caffeine? Is it possible to enjoy the taste of coffee but have 0 caffeine?
They could still consider drinking decaf coffee, but some people would say when they are going to drink decaf, there's 0 caffeine, but there's still 2 or up to 5 milligrams. So you may want to check some of their labels if there would be some indications that there would be caffeine. And another tip is to put more water or maybe some other fluids like your milk to help you in having a good sleep, maybe before 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. if your target bedtime would be 10 p.m.
Now, there are also some people who shouldn't be drinking coffee altogether. Dr. Lapitan, who are these people who should avoid coffee or caffeine, rather, altogether?
Meaning you're having some palpitation. Because considering your caffeine is a purely stimulant, you further increase the heart rate and further push you to develop some form of arrhythmia. And those patients who are already having trouble with gastrointestinal tract, again, you try to avoid taking this caffeine containing because you further push yourself to develop more hyperacidity or gastritis, and even ended up with loose bowel movement, things like that.
For most of us, coffee can be a healthy part of our lifestyle. And as with most things in life, consume it in moderation to reap its long list of benefits. Thank you, cardiologist Dr. Raul Lapitan and lifestyle medicine specialist Dr. Jan Di Pasupil, for being with us today and sharing with us your expertise. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll see you again next time.
Mas pinalawak,